everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, creator of the Deb Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I'm also the author of your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. You can't reach your goals on your own, you need your people. So every week I bring together some of my people to dive into a certain topic. Today we're strategically talking about strategy. Yes, I know. What is that? I occasionally tend to gosh, I don't even know what word I was going to say. So I am just going to pretend like I said something brilliant and move on. You might be watching us as GoalChat Live. You might be watching the replay. You may even be listening to us as the GoalChat podcast on Marketing Podcast Network. No matter how you found us, we're so glad you're here and diving into this strategic conversation about strategy. I should have just left it there or started there. Anyway, with me today, we have Jason Falls, who, in addition to being the executive director of the Marketing Podcast Network, is all about using influencer marketing strategically. He wants to reinvent the way people think about it, which is great. If anything needs a reinvention, it is that. Camille Miller, who we met through our friend Lisa Reed, is talking about being soulful in your strategy. And Anna Visneski, I recently met because she was at our pitch-a-rama for WNBA San Francisco, Women's National Book Association, basketball, something else. And she actually was at the event and said, I want to join the board. So gave us an opportunity to talk more. And I knew this topic was coming up, and you never need a strategy more than in crisis. So again, thrilled to have these wonderful people with me today. And don't take my word for it. I will let them tell you how awesome they are. And I don't know, I'm hearing somebody in the background, so maybe put the mic off if you're not talking. Maybe. Except you, Jason, because it's your turn.
Okay.
Jason, welcome. So glad to have you here. Who are you and why strategy?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, "Who are you and why in the hell are you here?" But thank
Well,
you
you
for
can
having
answer
me.
that as well. I don't mind.
Sure. So, Jason Falls, my company where I do influence marketing strategy and social listing strategy as well for clients is called Falls and Partners. And I also, as Deb mentioned, I am the executive producer of the Marketing Podcast Network, where GoalChat, her podcast, and this will eventually air over there as a podcast. We have about 80 shows now on the network. And so it's all marketing podcasts. So you can find out more about that later. But in my primary role and why I'm here to talk about strategy is because, as Deb mentioned, I have been kind of on a mission for the last 5 or 6 years to kind of change the way I think about influencer marketing. But you'll actually hear me talk about it as influence marketing, because I think the one thing that's missing out of most influencer marketing strategies is the actual influence. And so my whole, focus has been to kind of try to train people, my clients and others, to think of, if you're focused on influencers, on the actual people that you're trying to get your product to through to their audience, and you're not focusing on the ones that are actually influential on that audience, then you're going to miss. And so I work with people to try to find the true influencers in their space so that they can be more strategic in how they use influencers and influence marketing.
And it feels like it's one of those dirty words, influencer, because people say it and they cringe, and most of the time rightly so. But it's one of those words we need to take back, because when you have the right people in the right position, that's how you, I hate to sound woo woo, actually I don't, but that's when you get the magic, is when you mix and match the right people. And I love the idea of looking at it strategically. We have to give a shout out to Seth Goldstein, whose Entrepreneur's Enigma is also on the Marketing Podcast Network. And he is the reason I am on MPN, because he did the original intro. So thank you for watching live. And Jason, again, great to have you here. Camille, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And you are one of those cases of, I do a meetup every month, because when people come to me and they say, I want to be on your show, I'm like, great, we need to be friends first. So you've been coming to GoalChat online, and it's been great getting to know you there. But please, I know you, tell other people about you.
Yeah, thank you. As you mentioned, I am an intuitive business and life strategist, and I help people really redesign their second or third part of their life after they've gone to corporate or done a thing, and they said, "This doesn't make my heart sing. What does my next chapter look like?" And I help them figure out what that looks for, but I do it with a soulful spin. So we're always looking for authenticity. What makes your heart sing? What feels good? What do you want to wake up every single day and do, even if you won the lottery? Like, what will make you do that? And then I help people with the strategy behind that. And the life part of that is the lifestyle that you want. How do you want to feel? Who do you want to be with? Because a lot of times when you're working on a business, your life comes up as well. It could be partnerships, relationships, um, relationships with money or people. So that all comes up as we're building and kind of thinking about how you want the last chapter of your life to be.
Well, as a goal girl and goal cheerleader, whatever it is we want to call me this week, I am completely with you. I believe that you need to love at least some of, if not all of your life, because what's the point? And when you do the things that you love, it uplifts everything else. So
Absolutely.
very important niche to be in these days. Oh, and Terry Bond, who is watching live, says woo woo also works. Yes, we are all about the woo woo and really owning and having a good life and being strategic about it. There you go. Anna, great to have you here.
Let me unmute myself. Hi. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm Anna Visneski. I run a crisis management firm, Mirwith, where we specialize in helping companies like get their plans together for crisis management around everything from data breaches to natural disasters to some of the stuff we see happening in the world right now. Along with that, I have a book where I talk about the strategy behind how I kind of have lived my life by the seat of my pants. I was in the military for 12 years. I was in the U.S. Coast Guard, thus the crisis management experience, and how that taught me different strategies for surviving in the corporate hellscape that aren't necessarily what you would learn anywhere else. So I have a bit of a different methodology. My last corporate job was I was the VP of marketing operations at Oracle. And then I decided actually to kind of do what Madam Miller was talking about and getting the heck out of there and following my heart and doing what makes me happier. My strategy always looks a little chaotic to other people, but it makes sense inside my head. So I wrote a book on how to do that.
Well, that really is the key to anything, is figure out what works for you, do what works for you. And if you have a platform or you don't build one, and share that, because people can truly benefit. And one thing that I say frequently is, unless it's on purpose, my guests don't know each other. And if you're watching the video, you will see a sea of turquoise. This was not planned. But it just goes to show that sometimes things work out and the universe sends other people messages in really bizarre ways. It's almost like they were strategic about being matchy, except
it's the first time in my life I've ever been fashionable. So thank you.
I would also point out that is a giant Pokemon sphere that my dogs sleep on, and it's always in my background.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, and back to strategy. So we were not strategic. They were just intuitive. Okay, we'll bring Camille in here about how to show up today. And because we're rewriting what strategy means, why don't we start with what is it? And then what you think it needs to be. So, Jason, why don't you start us off?
Well, I mean, to simplify it, I think I know Deb, you're big on simplifying everything here. Strategy to me is just simply having a plan to achieve a goal. And you can certainly multiply that and put S's after things and make it goals or strategies. But it's really just, thinking about, why do we want to do things? What is it we want to accomplish and why? And if you can answer what you want to accomplish and why, then you have a framework of a strategic plan. Filling in all of the, okay, now how do we get to step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4 is strategic planning. But strategy is really just understanding what you want to achieve and then understanding the why behind it, because that should, in a good strategic plan and a good strategic execution, the answers to those 2 questions should guide every decision you make. And if they don't ladder up to those 2 answers, then you've made a mistake along the way. So that's what strategy is to me.
And to me, you've heard me say this before, you can't get what you want unless you know what that is. The D in the Deb method is determine your mission. I should also add that Jason spilled a secret in 52 Secrets, and in his secret is about planning your day. So it's not just about planning your goals. It's making a plan that's going to work for you within your life. Also part of strategy, and something we will probably tangent into later. Camille, how do you define strategy?
So everything Jason said, but I think the way I look at it is it doesn't have to be like this big plan, but it has to feel good in a way to get to whatever your goal is, right? It's a plan to get to a goal, because a lot of times we have these visions and hopes and wants, but if we don't have the plan to get there, you're never going to hit it. Like just holding the vision isn't enough without the strategy behind it and how we're going to get there. So for me, it's more of a map of steps that you have to achieve to get there. Your measurables, what we're trying to do. But I think there's strategy behind everything, right? There's strategy behind your mission. There's strategy behind your vision. There's strategy. So each piece of it, there has to be strategy behind it to create that strategic plan for everything.
So it's the big picture and then the little pictures within the big picture.
Yeah.
But the thing that you said at the front, which I like even more, is it has to feel good. Because if you're going against the grain, well, sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone. That's not the same thing.
Agreed.
As being in alignment with who you are and moving forward with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely what I call a soulful strategy, like something that feels good. I always say, like, if you hate doing video, don't do video. Maybe you like writing. If you like to write. Like, it has to feel good. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing, but you should really be good at one thing and stick to it.
Absolutely. And going back to why I wrote 52 Secrets is there is no one secret. See what works for other people and what resonates that you can incorporate into your life for the greater good down the road. So
absolutely.
Everybody's
map is different.
We're just going to be agreeing with each other all afternoon. That's okay. We're still interesting. Anna,
I would say
strategy?
To kind of add on to what's been said here, strategy is adaptive. So I think too many times we get a strategy in our head and this is our path and this is what we're going to do. And then nothing goes to plan ever. And so if you have fit too strictly into this is my strategy for getting there, you'll kind of hit roadblocks more often, as opposed to instead of looking, this is my end goal. But I loved the little pictures to get there, the inch stones to get there, and piece by piece by piece. Because if you anyone who's ever played a board game, you know that you can only control so much of what happens, and someone else is going to, make their move and move their pieces over here, and you can't control that. So with strategy, having that strategy in place before you start moving towards a goal, but also making sure your strategy includes flexibility and the ability to pivot to a different thing. So for example, when Camille mentioned, if you don't like being on video, I can't stand it. And yet I know that in order to help with some of my book stuff, I do need to start growing my TikTok audience a bit. So I've been finding ways of doing that feel right for me. But if you had asked me 6 months ago, are you going to be on TikTok? I would have laughed at you. I'm too old for that. But adaptive, make sure your strategy has that flexibility to move around or change a slight path to get to the goal that you really care about without giving up who you are.
I love that the youngest person in this conversation just said she was too old for TikTok. And I will also add that I had Annie Corzin, who is an octogenarian TikTok star, She's been on the show before as well. She wrote.
Well, I
the
love
book of
watching
Annie.
TikTok. I've been watching TikTok for years. Creating TikToks was a definite step outside of my comfort zone, which is funny when you consider I was a public affairs officer in the Coast Guard. So I used to be on camera for disasters and crisis all the time, but that was in the uniform. That was less vulnerable. That was, presenting the mission. This is more of myself and more vulnerable. So it's been a very weird experience.
Well, I love this idea, though, of getting out of your comfort zone as part of your strategy. So what can you all give me can you each give me an example, like Anna just did, of how doing that within your strategy was a benefit? And then if you want to yes and it, Anna, when we're done, you'll let me know. Jason?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, I deal with influencers a lot. And one of the things that gets me out of my comfort zone is having to placate people's egos. And as you might imagine in the influencer marketing space, you're dealing with 90% of what you're dealing with is ego. The rest of it is actual worth, I think. Most of it is just cockiness and diva syndrome. And I just don't have any patience for that at all. So in order to get out of my comfort zone, I have to suck up to people sometimes. And that's just not my personality. I don't need people to suck up to me. It doesn't work in reverse. I just tell it like it is and talk very directly to people. And when they start telling me, oh, I'm going to need more time for this because my team has to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, you create content on TikTok. You're not Spielberg. Let's work through this. But I have to bite my tongue and get out of my comfort zone and pull back and kind of play the game a little bit because I can't piss them all off. I can piss quite a few of them off because let's be honest, somebody with 300,000 followers on YouTube, there's 1,000 more of you waiting to work with the brands that I work with. I don't have to deal with one person, but I also have to not have a reputation of being a prick too. So I got to kind of reel that in sometimes. So that's where
balance.
Yeah, that's where I get out of my comfort zone is I have to suck up to people sometimes, which I don't like to do.
We're putting on that filter, which some days is harder than others.
Yeah, sorry. Is this a family show? I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's perfect. It's every now and then, if I'm like really overtired, my filter's off, and people are like, "Deb," and I'm like,
it's my favorite thing is when your filter falls off. It's glorious.
Yeah.
Well, you see me in meetings when we're not broadcasting, so
that's true. That's true.
But yes, I think the people who know me will agree that this is me 95% of the time. But don't piss me off.
That's fair.
Camille, what about you? What is something out of your comfort zone that's worked for you in terms of strategy?
Yeah, I, like Anna, also did TikTok for actually a pretty long time until they started playing the game. Are we taking it off? We taking it on? We taking it off? We're taking it on? And then I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not building a following anymore until we decide. So that was pretty big. But I think the biggest one for me is as my company grew, understanding that I was actually the leader and that I had to be the face of the company, because I tried for a very long time not to be, right? And hired people or salespeople or spokesmen, and it never worked because it took me a while to understand that people were attracted to me and my energy. And I had to do that. I had to be the leader. So that was actually stepping up and being able to do that so the company could grow and getting people to do some of the inside stuff. That was uncomfortable.
And it's working for you.
It's working. It's working. It's hard when you're a
Okay.
Loser?
Her face is here, but her voice left. Okay, Camille, we lost that last brilliant thing you said. If you want to say again.
Okay, sorry. I was saying it's very difficult as a founder to, as you grow, to kind of give up all that stuff that you've been doing along the way and hand it off. Like, for me, it was hiring an operations person and hiring people to do things and not check up on them, it wasn't hard when I was a leader in corporate or another working for other people, but it was really hard as a founder to step into leadership. So it's something that I think about all the time is, you have to stay ahead of everybody else. Plus I teach business strategy, right? So I have to stay ahead of everyone, which is kind of hard.
Well, what do they say? All you have to do is be 2 steps ahead of the person who knows less than you.
Yeah, it's like a half a step actually, but yeah.
I'm being
Is
generous.
that like you have to be faster than the slowest person when you're outrunning a bear?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly the same thing.
Just checking. Same methodology. Got it.
Same idea.
Same
idea.
strategy for not getting eaten by a bear as for being a
Leading
thought
being a
leader.
business leader.
Anna, did you have anything else to
Well,
add?
the TikTok thing, but I would actually say that honestly, the biggest stepping outside my comfort zone was running my own company. I'm 3rd generation military. Everyone in my family is government. They're also all engineers, so I'm the weirdo in so many ways. But I went straight from being in the Coast Guard to being at Amazon Web Services, and so I was in big tech right out of the Coast Guard. And so stepping into running my own business was insanely terrifying. And mad shout out to my spouse because he has been my rock and super supportive of the whole crazy journey. But yeah, it was one of the scariest things I've done. But I realized that no one was doing crisis management the way I wanted to do it, where our trainings are trauma free. We are very, very strict on our ethical rules. We are, like, no one was doing it the way I wanted to do it. And so stepped outside my comfort zone. I was like, you know what, I'll do my own thing. And it's been going really well. We have 5 of us now at the company. So
That's awesome.
but yeah, running a business is terrifying.
Yeah.
See, and I think it's
Just being
fun.
real.
And every now and then I hear someone who's been an entrepreneur going back to work a day job, and I'm like, really? You really think you can go from this
Oh, I don't
to
think I
working
could.
for other people? And they're like, that's my comfort zone. So, okay, great. Good for you. But at least for me, I've always been, the LA line is I've always had multiple projects at various stages of development. I am on any given day 5 people. I try to only be 2 of my personas a day, but sometimes, but it's all with the bridge of everything's about using goals to create the life you deserve and desire. And I feel, and Anna touched on this a little bit, I would love you each to share your mission, because I do believe that mission is what drives strategy. And then we can go down that rabbit hole. So Anna, you just kind of said it, but do you want to restate it in a one-liner kind of way?
Yeah, our goal is to make the pain stop. Like literally, that's my company's goal, is make the pain stop. And our goal is to help people. We have a longer mission statement than that, but I mean, the 2 things at our core is to minimize damage moving forward and help people.
Love that. And Camille?
Our mission is to help others bring their gifts to the world. So many times because people don't think they're worthy of it, or that's not really a gift, it comes natural to me, and how do we get it out there so other people can enjoy it? I believe in like the ripple effect of helping others.
And that is probably why Lisa said we need to meet, because I am all like you haven't noticed. Jason, what about you?
Yeah, my whole focus is trying to bring actual strategy to influence marketing or influencer marketing, because I think most of influencer marketing is let's find somebody with a big audience and have them say, I use this product, and that's not influence. And if you actually put some strategic thinking behind it and find people who are actually influential, then you actually move the needle, and you don't have to pay the people with big egos.
Which is always like the best joy, right?
Yeah.
Jason, what kills me is how many people don't know that there's actually a science to social networks and social engagements. Yeah. Real quick, we could probably go off for hours on this. I have a master of communication in network analytics and a master of communication in digital media. Nice. So like I am very familiar, and every time I hear someone like you, it's like, yeah, I wish more people understood. It's not just find the person with the most followers. They have to have the right connections. They have to, like, there's so much more of a science to the whole thing.
Yeah.
There isn't necessarily a science to going viral, but to the influencers themselves, there's definitely a connection science. And it's entertaining to see how many businesses don't understand that.
Yeah, somewhere in the late 2000s, in the mid 2000s, we in the PR world, we were focused on blogger relations, is what we called it back then, because we didn't really understand the influencers wasn't a thing. But this concept of mavens was a name that got thrown around. If you're a maven in an industry, that means a lot of people actually pay attention to you. It wasn't so much about how many followers you had, because we hadn't gotten into that, Instagram, TikTokification. If you had 10,000 followers on Twitter, that was awesome and people thought you were cool. But that was about the extent of it. Once Instagram hit and it became this, let's collect as many, and Vine was involved too. Let's collect as many followers as possible. Then it became kind of skewed. And if we had stuck with that idea of let's find the actual mavens, the people who really have subject matter expertise and are trusted by their audience, regardless of how big that audience is. And when they say something, the audience will listen to them. If we had stuck with that instead of this, how many subscribers do you have on YouTube? And that's all that counts. We'd be in a better place, but we're not. And so that's why I'm here.
Yep.
I love that you said that. And I love the word maven. I also like to use the word king or queen, depending on gender or identity or what have you. When I'm working with my book proposal clients, the first thing I help experts, and I'm not using air quotes, I'm talking about people who have dug in. This is my thing that I need to share with the world. I say, congratulations, you are now the queen of or king of. But I think now I'm going to start saying maven of, because I love that word too. And owning it, I think, is part of the strategy to elevating. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you're saying there. And I'm glad that you think you want to change it to maven, because if you use king and queen with people who have established egos, oh Lord.
Oh, you're right.
So I think maven's much better. Subject matter expert, SME, that's a perfect way to describe people with actual influence, because they are subject matter experts. And I have a book where I go into a great detail about this one particular quote unquote influencer in the fashion space who had all these followers and allegedly all this influence. And she launched her own clothing line and sold like 24 shirts. 24. I can sell 24 shirts. And I went into a deep dive on why did she fail at this. And it was because if you go back and look at Robert Cialdini's, power of persuasion, the 5 or 6 points of influence, I think he's expanded to 7 now. But I went back through all those and said, did she establish authority? No. Did she establish this? Did she establish that? And it really is subject matter expertise. Mavens is a good synonym for that. Those are the people who we actually want to identify when we're trying to find influential third parties to talk about our products and services, because those are the people that people actually listen to. They don't just passively doom scroll past them in the feed because they're following them and they don't really pay attention to them.
Now we've got Marilyn, who's watching us live, who cannot use Maven, and feel free to comment.
Yeah.
As it, well, I know that it's got, and I'm just doing Maven. It is derived from the Yiddish, which I guess I probably should have brought up. Jewish Journal food podcaster that I am. So I don't know. Maybe it's the connotation. I figure whatever word it is that you're using, if you are that subject matter expertise, you need to believe in it. And that should be part of the strategy in getting your word out there. One thing Jason has probably heard me rant on this. I don't know if Camille and Anna have yet, but it drives me nuts that if you Google goal setting expert, only men come up. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm waiting for my decades to turn me into an overnight success. It is one of those things, because the way that I approach goals is from the foundation. You need all the things, but my mission is to change goal culture in and out of the workplace, to use it for the magic that it is to make your life better in all the areas. I don't see anybody, male or female, doing that. So as a subject matter expert, part of it is you just have to keep going and keep raising your voice, and suddenly, I mean, it doesn't feel like much of a strategy, but sometimes that's all you can do. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Absolutely. I would repeat what you just said because it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, subject matter experts, regardless of where in history you look, at what point in time you look, when you're looking at people who are influential, it's the people who are experts in a given subject. And shockingly, all you influencers out there listening, if you're an expert in one or two subjects, you're probably not an expert in subject 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So stay in your lane and you'll be great.
You want to hit on all of my pet peeves today. Oh my goodness. Amazing. Anna, Camille, anything else you want to add for strategy of subject matter expert? And then we will dive into your two expertises.
Yeah.
But before you answer, Marilyn replied, I think influencers are getting very niche, careful consideration to their audience.
The good ones are for sure.
The good
ones are for sure. And I will say, having a few friends who are influencers in various spaces, when I started, I was like, I got to do the TikTok thing. They're like, look, because you're doing it for your nautical horror novel, talk about shark movies because you obsessively watch shark movies. Just do shark movie reviews and share all the weird stuff you found while researching for your horror novel. And that's what I've been doing. And I've gone from 200 followers to just cleared 6,000 in about 6 weeks.
That's awesome.
So, but it was like, stick to those two things, talk about writing the book, but stick to weird ocean facts and the fact that you have a problem with how many shark movies you watch. And I'm like, all right. Weirdly enough, though, I do have to say my highest performing video was one I filmed right out of the gym talking about how you should wash off pepper spray. It has 50, 60,000 views on it. And I just happen to be explaining to people, if you're going to be out doing things this weekend and you happen to get spicy spray on you, here's how you wash it off without burning yourself. Because that happens to be an expertise I have from my time in the Coast Guard. Oh, look, there's my husband saying I watched so many shark movies.
Who probably also watches so many shark movies.
That poor man watches so many shark movies.
Probably not by choice, I'm guessing.
No, I ruined our recommendations on Hulu. Basically every platform when I was sick once, because he said you have to stay on the couch. I'm like, okay. He comes downstairs, every single streaming platform, like 6 scrolls deep, is nothing but creature features and shark movies. So
yeah, Marilyn's she absolutely, Marilyn, hyper-focused and niche. That's where the subject matter expert, the true influencer, comes into play. It's the ones that are out there trying to be the next reality TV show star with whatever they're doing and trying to do too many things that are just gaining followers and becoming more and more annoying by the moment.
I think a great example of someone who's done this really well is Nina Poole. Nina Poole on TikTok focuses entirely on expensive beauty hacks. So she finds an expensive product and she finds the reasonably priced version of it.
Yeah.
And she does nothing but like, hey, this super expensive thing that you can't afford. Here's the way to get it at the drugstore. Here's the same things. And she's built it, and she's been getting brand deals and all that. And her stuff is always on point. I think she's a great example of hyper niche, hyper niche.
Camille, I am so sorry. We tangented on you. Well, sorry, not sorry. What is your take on the whole niche influence strategy thing?
Me?
You.
Sorry, I didn't hear it. You clicked it in out.
She was into the shark thing. No, I was apologizing for jumping off and then tangenting, and now we are jumping back to you. What is your take on strategy for influence?
Or on shark movies?
I definitely think the hyper focused, absolutely, more so than ever before. I think people try to be a generalist, and you can't do that. That's at least not how you build and scale, right? You can't be a generalist and build and scale. But what I find, because I talk all the time. I'm on a lot of podcasts, 3 or 4 a week. because that was my goal this year. That was part of my strategy, was just go out there, just keep talking, just keep talking, just keep talking, see where people come. And I find it interesting because sometimes in those higher podcasts, they're asking, well, how many people follow you? What is your influence? And they give you, and I was doing one, I don't know if it was Inc. or Forbes. I don't know which one it was. Like, you actually have to put in and they score you. And I had to, like, something, there was like one category where you have to do a little bit better here. Like, and I thought it was so interesting. And I'm like, I don't know, like, I am definitely an authority on soul-driven success. Written 3 books on it. I talk about it all the time. Like, this is my niche, but I don't do Instagram. We have an account, but that's really not where I'm focused, because that's not where my people are. So it's really interesting. But my database, my mailing list is 10,000 people that get my newsletter when I say, hey, I think this is a great thing, or I tried this, right? Or I have a partnership with this person, but they don't look at that. Those
magazine websites where they allow anybody to, if you fill out a form and you meet their algorithm score for quote unquote influence, you get to publish articles there. The sad thing is they're not looking for expertise. They're not looking for influence. They're looking for traffic to their website. So if you can make your formula so that it shows them that for every article you publish, you're going to drive X people and it meets their threshold of X people, then you get in. It's funny how you can distill that, because if you look at, they're saying we want to make sure that you're an authority, or that you have influence, or you're a subject matter expert. And then they ask something dumb like, how many Instagram followers do you have? It's like, oh, that's not what you're looking for. What you're looking, and logically you have to know they will accept guest contributions from people they know will do one thing and one thing only: drive traffic so that their ads get more impressions so that they make more money. That's the only thing they care about. They don't care about expertise.
Yeah. But I think Camille brought up a great point of knowing where your audience is. So I was the founder of the Coast Guard social media program. So I should tell you, as we're joking about how old I am, I founded the Coast Guard social media program in 2006. And one of the things I pointed out to the admirals, because as you can imagine, a bunch of admirals did not want to be on social media, was that's where our people are. People are starting to listen more. And this was right as Twitter was starting and all that. And so I was like, hey, Twitter is going to be a place where disaster response conversations are going to be happening, and we need to get on there and explained it. And then, but of course, then once one of them worked, they were like, we want to do all of them. And I'm like, no, we don't. We do not need a Coast Guard Vine. We do not need a Coast Guard, it was like, no, guys, like, just because, like, you got to, and of course, using military terminology, I was like, look, we're hunting bunnies. You don't use a tank to hunt a bunny. So let's keep to the things that we know our audience is at, that we can, and yeah. So I love that you brought up the point of know where your audience is. Because if your audience isn't on Instagram, why would you be spending the time? Because that's taking time away from the things where your audience is.
Right. Strategy. Getting back to that. It's knowing where your audience, like, you don't have to do all the things because people said to do them. That's what I'm telling my people all the time. And where I am in that soulful world, most people aren't really on a lot of social media. So you have to find other ways to get them. Like when I feel like everything got so loud and noisy with AI, like, because everyone can post, everyone can write now, everyone can do all this stuff. And it's just a lot of general information. So I was like, how do we flip it? How do we change it? I went to writing 3,000 word articles once a week that were very hyper specific on what I do or a topic that came up. Right. And that went from like 0. I think I have like, I don't know, 750 followers, and I've done 4 or 5 articles already. So I was like, okay, that's how we'll get it across. But
and there's a market of people who are just selling that to you. Here's what you have to do. Let me teach you. And you need to post on LinkedIn 7 times a week. You need to do this. You need to do this. And what kills me is how predatory some of the,
Agreed.
Especially as I'm working to get my nautical horror novel out and, growing my business. How often on LinkedIn, all I'm getting are people trying to sell me AI or trying to teach me how to be a leader. I'm like, did you look at my resume and realize where I come from? I maybe got more leadership training than you can shake a stick at. but like it's predatory and it's
Yes.
constant. It's, oh, we'll teach you how to get on stage. Like my brain immediately went, how are you doing that many podcasts? And it's because in my experience, there have been people who've been like, oh, I'll teach you how to get on 7 or 8 podcasts a week. And it's not. And so that's the other thing I would warn everyone watching this to look out for is there is a lot of predatory snake oil salesmen teaching you how to be a bigger influencer, how to build your perfect strategy. And it's all the same thing.
And that is why I wrote this, for that very specific pet peeve, because a lot of these people, and you're right, there are a ton of predators, but the ones that get me are the ones who say, do exactly what I do. Well, you do not have the same background. You do not have the same income. You do not have the same financial whatever.
Yeah.
You
All
are
knowledge.
not the same. Knowledge. You are not the same.
Well, and let's
But-
also add into their neurodivergency. So I have ADHD and CPTSD. And so like, I will straight up tell you, I will hyper focus on posting on LinkedIn for like 3 weeks. And then my brain's like, ooh, shiny. And I'm off doing something else. And so I've had to build a strategy around what actually works for me, which is when I'm hyper focused, write stuff that will supply me for 6 months. If my brain goes, nah, I'm going to go do this, but I know I need to keep posting. So during those hyper fixation times, write as much as I can or film as much as I can to keep the content flowing when I suddenly decide I need to knit something instead.
But that is smart strategy, knowing what works for you.
Yep.
And incorporating it into your life.
Let me give you I can illustrate an example here for you. And this problem in the digital marketing social media space goes back 20 years now. Because it was 20 years, it was actually 20-ish years ago this happened. I was at a conference. I was speaking at the conference, but I was in the crowd watching somebody else talk. And it happened to be the marketing director, I believe, for a large medical center in Southern California, actually, Deb. And they were saying, well, we read a blog post by this expert who said the best time of day to publish your content on Facebook is 10:30 a.m. in the morning. And she said, so we started publishing. That's when we publish our most important post of the week as a, healthcare facility. They actually added the best. It was 10:30 a.m. on Saturdays is what they said. That was the best time at that point due to some limited, like
Sorry.
they analyzed.
If you're listening to this,
Yeah, it's not.
Camille, Anna, and I are all making faces.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Trust me, the story will come full circle in a minute. But I'm sure this data analyst who published this analyzed like 18 different posts. But anyway, that's all the context she gave was Saturdays at 10:30. And I went up to her afterwards and I said, hey, I want to ask you a little bit about that posting at 10:30 on Saturday. She said, well, yeah, that was the most popular time. I said, well, which time zone? And she looked at me like I had 3 heads. I was like, well, you need to know which time zone because you're in Pacific time. I live in Eastern. So if you post at 10:30 in my time, is it right or is it wrong or is it 10:30 your time? I don't know. That's just the surface, the skinning the surface. The other thing was,
did you make her cry?
No, I didn't make her cry, but I said, think about this. You are a healthcare facility. The most popular time, according to this person, to check social media on Facebook is 10:30 a.m. on a Saturday. We're in the fall. College football happens on Saturdays. About 10:30 is when people get up and start getting hyped up for the game. Do they need an emergency room? And she just looked at me.
Yeah, and
like,
only
what?
once. Yeah.
And I said, you know what? It goes back to what we were just saying. You have to understand your audience, your brand, your content, the times of day when it's proper and appropriate to deliver that content to that audience. It doesn't have anything to do with some software tools aggregated BS, because that's all that was aggregated BS. And so we've been dealing with this problem for 20 years. And you know what? 20 years from now, we'll still be dealing.
The adaptive thing comes back too, because, Saturday, I don't think you wanted to be posting anything on Saturday, June 14th that was not related to the No Kings protests. Or, I don't think, like, that's one of the other things with strategy when it comes around to your marketing or your company's actions, like product launches, strategies around anything like that. You have to have your head on a swivel on what else is going on in the world, because your strategy might have to change because a word you were using 2 months ago is now being associated with something horrible, or something that was fine 3 months, 6 months, 7 months ago is now associated with something awful. Or, you're planning to do a product launch on a Monday and a whole bunch of stuff lit on fire over the weekend. And I had to tell a client, today is not the day to do the thing. Just saying. So your strategy when it comes to this kind of marketing, it's not only it is good. I would say it is good to have a strategy that you're going to post once a week. And it is good to train your audience that, hey, every Wednesday I get my favorite Deb notes, or I get my favorite Camille notes every Wednesday. That's good to do, to train your audience. But you have to have some flexibility in that, because if something horrible happens on that Wednesday, you don't want to be putting out a, hey guys, come buy this thing, while the world is watching something horrible happen. So there's training your audience, but there's building in that flexibility of like,
I do this show live every Monday at 4. And the only day I pulled an episode was January 6th, 2021. The only time.
It's a good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Well, in most of the time when a holiday falls on a Monday, I'll do a rerun, or I won't. But mostly people know that if it's Monday at 4:00 Pacific, they're going to get motivated. And if it's Wednesday, they're going to get a new episode of Taste Buds with Deb. And if it's Thursday, they're going to have a release of that previous Monday's GoalChat episode. And beyond that, I will also say my Facebook group, Right On, it's a different prompt every day of the week, because it's all about goal setting, productivity, and community. But you make the coloring book, and then you get to color mostly inside the lines. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's nodding. I like that.
No, I would say also, though, if my husband is still listening, I would like to point out that Deb is one of the few people that makes me look like I don't do anything. Like that my husband, he's always on my case that I'm working on my horror novel. I'm republishing my nonfiction book. I teach crisis communications at the UW. I'm studying for my law degree. I do all, and
okay,
I run my company.
Now you are making me feel a little bit easy. So thank you.
But you just ran through how many podcasts, and so I love the fact that you do just that many things to motivate other people to do things too. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I hope he's still listening, so he can see that I'm not the only person who does not know how to take a break and breathe.
And to that end, we're talking about the umbrella. You don't want to be too many things. I have found a way to make goals enjoy my umbrella, because we're living in a world that it's really, really hard right now. And my through line message is, Eric just said she's leaving things out. Eric, I'm gonna send you tattling a list. On me. I'm gonna send you a list of all the things I do, because most of my audience probably knows bits and pieces of it. I could go down that rabbit hole, but incredibly unnecessary. What tangent was I on? I am on a mission to change goal culture in and out of the workplace. Goals equals joy. And if you're listening to a food podcast, this is how I put my food podcast in it. It's going to uplift your spirit. Or if you're sharing what you're working on, I'm very much in the you can't reach your goals on your own business, which is why, unless it's on purpose, I bring strangers together, because I think they will like each other. I think I was right today.
Yeah.
And I'm still fascinated by you all wearing turquoise, or having turquoise headphones, as Anna has. But the whole purpose, when you know your purpose, it's much easier to strategize, because you've got your foundation, your starting point. You know who you are, what you're about, you know your mission, and then you put things in your strategy where you get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I love that.
I am stepping off my soapbox. Before we go into goals, does anybody else have a thought on about how you interweave strategy in an organic way, because it's still strategy if it's flexible. Camille?
Yeah. I teach to be very flexible, adaptable. Does it feel good? But also, like, I do a weekly newsletter, which I literally just started. But last week I was traveling. So, and I was like, oh, I could write it ahead of time. I could get it out. I can repost it. And then I just said, or I just don't do it. Right? And I was like, who really notices? Right. But that's part of strategy too. I just felt like it needed to be time. But what you were just saying, I wanted to get back to, I came out of the not-for-profit world, and we were always being really careful not to call what we call mission creeping. Right. We start to go away from our mission just to do things, or let me just add this, or this one more service, there's one more program, there's one more thing. And then all of a sudden we're getting further and further away from our mission. So I always teach clients to come back. Like, is it part of your mission? Is this what you really want to do? Saying yes to, right? And keep bringing it back to, do I really need to do this? Because I like simple too.
Yes.
I don't like all the things. I like simple. Is it on target? Is this what you want to do?
And that's why I love that when I asked you all for your mission, you gave me really more of a motto, more of a tagline, because I always say, if you're doing your mission right, it's going to be long and clunky. But when you know your motto, that's going to be your best compass. And will tell you if something is a professional or even a personal benefit that keeps you on the road moving forward. Jason, did you want to add something?
No, I'm ready to get for our gift of goals. I like
Okay. Well, Jason, what goal are you gifting today?
Well, okay, and this actually, it kind of falls right in line with what Camille was just saying. Is I think
but before you get into it, will you guys mute yourself, because I'm hearing paper shuffling. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, go.
Yeah. Okay. So I think a lot of people have heard of, and I'm bringing up the website over here to the side so that I can make sure that I quote it correctly. The 5 whys method. It's you ask the question why 5 times to diagnose problems. Well, I think that is a reactive activity. I think diagnosing a problem after it's happened is obviously reactive. So my gift to you for goal setting and strategy on this program today is to use that 5 whys method proactively. And what do I mean by that? When you are deciding what your goal is, or when you are looking at building your strategy, ask yourself if your strategy aligns with the overall company mission or the overall strategy or goal, because most of us are in marketing. We're not necessarily setting the compass for the entire organization. We're falling in line with something that's already set for us. If you own your own business and you're doing it for your own business, then elevate yourself and start at the top here. But you have to decide why you're doing this. And so what I would with regard to what I do in influencer marketing, I simply say, okay, why are we using influencers? And typically the answer is because we want to create awareness around the product. Why do you want to create awareness around the product? Well, because we want people to consider this product when they're purchasing something out of this category. Well, why do you want them to consider it? Well, because we want them to buy our product. Well, why do you want them to buy our product? So that we can drive more revenue. Well, why do you want them to drive more? Why do you want to drive more revenue? Well, because we want to be able to return more profits to our shareholders. If you ask why 5, maybe 6 times, sometimes, depending on how complex the thing is, you get to the real root of what you're trying to do. And if along the way, any of those steps that you say, this is what we're doing, does not ladder up to returning profits to shareholders or whatever the ultimate goal of the business or organization is, then you've got to fix something. So my sort of, what my gift of a goal to share with you today is use the 5 whys method before the problems happen. Diagnose what you're trying to do and understand the why every step of the way. Because if you, again, going back to what I said at the very beginning, if you know what your goal is and you know why that is your goal, The answers to those questions will guide every question or decision you make along the way. Which influencers to use, what you're going to measure for success, how you're going to report, who you're going to report to, even things like product feature changes, pricing decisions. Everything has to ladder up to the why and the what. And if you know those two things, and you can develop those very strongly by using that 5 whys method, just using it before the problems start, using it backwards as a strategy setting exercise, not a, problem diagnoses method.
I love that. The other thing that kept going through my head when you're describing this is it's like pretend you're a kid. What does a kid say? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And that, I think, for me, and I don't have kids, I have no idea why I use the kid example, but if you look at yourself as this is a fun thing, you want to know these answers. It is a fun way of being curious that's going to help you build strategy for your business.
Yep.
Why?
Why? Just keep asking why.
Thanks for that, Jason. Camille, what goal are you gifting today?
So I would say using what I call the future self method. So it's really keeping that vision very brightly in front of you of where you're trying to go, what you're trying to achieve, and then always make decisions of, would my future self say yes to this? Right? Because you're putting yourself in the position of where you want to be and say, is this a good decision? Or when you're setting goals, it could be, for me, I always tell people it's having conversations. My relationships are more important than anything, because it's my relationships that get me in front of the people that I need to be in front of always. And 100% of my business is word of mouth. So for me, it's like conversations, right? Would my future self want to have this conversations? And sometimes I have to get more strategic about my conversations over time as I grow, right? So it's, who does my future self need to know today? Right. So it's always about acting as if you are your future self along the way when you're setting goals and doing things.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I as part of Deb method is to write your future bio in the present tense. And you know what you're working toward. But I love that piece of acting. Yeah. Well, you write it in the present, so why wouldn't you look toward all your decisions strategically with the future you in mind? So that's awesome.
Yeah. It's like being your future self now.
Anna?
I'm kind of going in the other direction. I would say my goal for everyone is do something that makes your inner 5-year-old happy. And what I mean by that is, when you were a little kid, what did you say you wanted to be when you grow up? Or what were you going to do someday? And if you were a little kid who said, oh, I wanted to be a fairy princess, was it because you would feel beautiful? Was it because you'd feel pretty? What are you doing to keep yourself from making that inner 5-year-old happy? And I would say, you could apply the 5 whys. Why did I want to be a princess? Because I could wear cool clothes. Oh, why am I not wearing cool clothes now? And really think about it. Because, the goals you have now might be goals that you were taught you were supposed to have. You're supposed to want to be an executive at a big company. You're supposed to want, this grinding job that gives you a lot of money but kills your soul. Like, you're supposed to want the hustle. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to go and, do something else. And maybe that's not feasible right now. But you can still find those things to fill that need. Maybe you can't, start your own business right now, or maybe you can't become an author full-time right now, but you could write in the evenings to make that inner 5-year-old happy. So what would have made your inner 5-year-old super happy about where your life is now, or where you are going? And why aren't you doing that now?
Oh my goodness, I love that so much. And that's really the essence of how I started doing this. Is it just, and I've been doing goal workshops and things for years, but I would see people doing things that made themselves miserable. And it's like, why? You can, even if you change up one thing, it's going to improve the other parts of your life. Oh, this has been wonderful. I love how strategy in the way that it's been discussed today, it's not strategy. It's just allowing yourself to embrace yourself and do more of the things that are going to get you where you want to go, which is why we set goals. And the goals, they don't have to be hard and fast. We start with, when you think about the life you want, what does it look like? And I really liked when you were talking, Anna, about what do you want to be when you grew up. Maybe it's not realistic, but what are the elements of why you wanted to be that person? So you kind of incorporated the Jason thing and also the Camille thing. Okay, why for your future self. So love it when goals work hand in hand. You all are awesome. Where can people learn more about you and all you have to offer? Anna.
So my company's webpage is themirrorwhif.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And then I actually am, sorry, it's got a cuss word in it. My book is actually on Amazon right now. This is the one that Deb and I are working on republishing, but you can already get it on Amazon and where books are sold, where I kind of talk about things like, your goals, and finding a way to navigate the career you might need to have for financial reasons or whatever without losing sight of who you are. I jokingly wanted to retitle the book, Don't Be a Disaster, The Responder's Guide to Navigating a Corporate Hellscape. So I'll see if Deb lets me use the word hellscape, but
Okay.
Yeah, those are all the places.
Oh, that's amazing. Wait, we're not working on that. Who are you working on that with?
Deb is working on republish, not Deb, oh my gosh. See,
Would
end
it
of the
be
work
would
day.
it be Brenda?
It might be Brenda. Yeah, sorry, not you. Brenda. Jiminy Christmas. End of my workday, man. But yeah, Brenda's helping me rework on the title, and we're going to expand it a little because, after it's published, you also think of 4 things you meant to put in the book. So I have a chance to republish it and put a few more things in the book.
Amazing.
So.
I love it. And I just can't hit the clean button when I upload it to Marketing Podcast Network.
Yeah, this just needs a little mute across the top word there.
Jason
It's got an
doesn't
asterisk.
Jason doesn't care.
The Marketing Podcast Network officially does not give a shit. You're fine.
Perfect.
And
Notice I didn't say the title. I just showed it.
Yeah. Well, a title of one of my books is No Bullshit Social Media. So we think alike.
And Deb, I've been meaning to reach out to you to help me with my query letters for my horror novels. So that's why I have you on the brain anyway. So.
Oh, I love being on people's brains. So yeah, let's have a conversation. I am all about helping people get their ideas out of their head and out into the world, which I do through helping people with their nonfiction books. So yes, let us chat. It was so much fun, and I love that this is considered a marketing show. It's a lifestyle show that brings people together. And isn't that what marketing is getting to know people, whatever words we want to use to draw me from step A to marketing podcast. I love. Camille, where can people learn more about you?
So you can learn more about me at soulprofessional.com or CamilleLMiller.com, either one of those. The Soul Professional movement is a big part of my work in the world, and it's a global call for individuals to come together and just have more purpose in your work and work together as an ecosystem, rise as a good global citizen, and bring others together that are working in purpose-driven work. So you can learn more about that at soulprofessional.com.
Thank you. And Jason, where can people learn more about you?
The mental facility near you. No, I'm Jason Falls everywhere on all them social media things there. And you can also find my website is fallspartners.com. That's my day job work website, strategy, all that stuff. I'm also at jasonfalls.com. I'm just typing Jason Falls. I'm there.
Excellent. And I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you go to the debmethod.com/blog, you will get the recap and the goals and the replay for all of the episodes. And if you need a little bit of help for your goals, you can grab a copy of your goal guide or 52 secrets for goal setting and goal getting at your favorite place to buy books. And of course, follow at the Deb Method everywhere and tune in every Monday live at 4, where we get to hang out and tell you things. Amazing conversation. Thank you, friends. What final thought do you want to leave people with today? Camille?
Live your life with purpose, because it should make your heart sing.
Because without purpose, what is the point?
That's true. Right.
What about you, Anna?
Right now, everything's a lot. Take care of yourself and the people you love.
Everything is a lot.
Everything's a lot right now. Take care of your health, take care of the people you love, and find those moments of joy. Don't feel guilty for finding moments of joy right now either. I think is a big one. Don't feel guilty that you have happy moments right now.
You need the happy. That's what gets you through the a lot. For sure. Jason, final thought.
I can't follow that very well, so I'm just going to remind everyone that the 5-year-old Anna wanted to ride sharks through tornadoes.
Not entirely wrong. I wanted to jump out of helicopters and be an author, and so far I've nailed both.
There you go.
So,
and what did you want to be when you grew up?
Me? Thin.
Yeah. And what about you, Camille?
Actually, I wanted to be a mom, which I am. I'm a lot of other things too, but that was actually what I really wanted to be.
Okay, and I'm sure this will surprise no one when I tell you that. So I've always been a writer, but I've always loved people. And I knew early on that whatever I did, I just wanted to be in a position where it can make other people's lives better. So who knew, right? I mean, 5-year-old Deb was trained to talk to everybody. And your old Deb does that as a huge part of what I do for a living. And I mean, what a blessing and what a joy. So thank you all so much for being here today. Jason Falls, Camille Miller, Anna Visneski. Thank you for tuning in. You need a strategy. Start with you and what gets you excited, what brings joy into your life. And then ask yourself why, make that plan, and then just live it, because you're here for a reason. Strategize, go for it, because we know you can do it. Thanks, everyone.